Moving on to Ishmael's strengths as a prospect, first up, I do want to talk about his capabilities as a lob threat on the offensive side of the floor. And I would make an argument, at least in my book, that out of all the center prospects in this class, or including all the overall prospects in this class, I believe Ishmael Kamagaté to be the second best lob threat, only behind Jalen Duren in this class. He just, as I mentioned here, he just has such a high catch radius due to his vertical and just his length. He's a great lob threat when he's just standing there, obviously, around the basket, just jumping off 2 feet. But I think he's also a very solid rim runner, and well, he's a rim running is part of it, but he's a very solid lob threat on the move as well. He's, again, sometimes these Paris guards will throw him passes that they can kind of seem a bit too high, a bit too out of his reach, but he's just able to go up and get these balls simply because of his length and his impressive vertical ability. So I feel like that is a strength of his that will translate to the NBA level from day one, and if nothing else, should help him see immediate minutes on the court for a team that could potentially fall thin at the center position and need him to fill in minutes from day one. They can count on having a very solid lob threat in Ishmael. Another part of his offensive game that I could definitely see translating from day one to the NBA level is that he's just a good finisher around the rim in general. And as I state here, he's a great finisher, specifically when he's wide open. Now, again, that might seem a bit obvious, like of course you want your center to be, a great finisher when he's wide open. But I feel like that really needs to be stated with Ishmael, simply because, well, we'll talk about some of his concerns later. But he's able to score on open looks around the basket, and I mean, I figured I would include that as a strength. He's a good finisher around the rim, when the shots are wide open, when he doesn't necessarily have too many defenders, trying or attempting to contest his shots. And another part of his offensive game that I really like is his free throw shooting. Well, I wouldn't say I really like. I feel like he has upside as a free throw shooter, but I feel like his form really needs a lot of work, and that's something that we will go into, in detail in the concerns section of the video. But and I'm not personally the biggest fan of Ishmael as a jump shooter. I've seen a lot of people say that he does have some upside as a mid-range scorer. He has shown some flashes of being, having a little post-up game in the mid-range, being able to, kind of take his pivot foot, swing it around, kind of hit a defender with a jab step, with a step back shot. But, I'm not personally that big a fan of that part of his game, just because of his form. And again, that's something that we will go into detail about why I don't like his form later on in the video. But, simply from standing at the free throw line and shooting, I do feel like there is some upside in terms of that area of his offensive game. And then moving on to his rebounding, where I feel like he is a pretty solid rebounder. Even though he doesn't have the best of rebounding totals or averages, I feel like he's a very good contested rebounder. And, that speaks volumes for a league that is, very physical. The French or the league that he was playing for is very physical. It was the best league in France, or the French basketball league. So that was very impressive to see Ishmael, battle on the glass. And I thought he was a great contested rebounder.
ESPN has Khalifa Diop ranked as the 4th best center in the 2022 draft. So let's see what the hype is all about. ESPN considers Khalifa Diop to be the 4th best center in the 2022 draft, while many big boards don't even have him in their top 60. It might seem like the Senegal big man is hidden away in Spain, but he's averaging about 15 minutes per game in the prestigious Spanish league. At 6'11" with a 7'2" wingspan and a frame that can still grow, let's get into Diop's game. Khalifa Diop's game at this stage of his development is pretty simple. That's both good and bad, and I'll get into why later, but let's start with his work in the pick and roll. I like the 6'11" center quite a bit in these situations. Diop is not going to blow your mind, but he makes himself wide by setting good screens, and then knows how to time and pace his dives to the rim with good footwork. From there, Diop has shown flashes of finishing through contact, off the glass, or getting to the free throw line. As of this video, he's making 63% of his shots in all competitions. In the Spanish league, Diop makes 67% of his field goals, which is quite an impressive figure despite the improvable sample size. In addition to pacing himself as a screener and roller, Diop can also play above the rim. No matter how perimeter-oriented the NBA gradually becomes, I think this is something that you can always use from a center, especially when you consider Diop is not really a tweener big that can also play the 4. At 6'11 with a 7'2 wingspan, Diop is an easy lob target for guards. It is easy to envision the Senegal center playing in a simple role in today's NBA. In the same way that Diop's height, length, and bounce allows him to play above the rim, I've also been impressed with his motor and skill on the offensive glass. The numbers are not incredible because quite frankly he does not play all that much. Diop is only averaging about 1.3 offensive rebounds per game across all competitions this season. However, he has good instincts crashing the boards and creating second chance opportunities for himself and his team. This is one of those cases where you must match the numbers with the eye test. I commented earlier that being 6'11 with a wingspan over 7 feet makes Diop an easy target for lobs. On that same note, those tools also give him a pretty big rebounding radius. On top of that, I also want to touch on his frame. He already weighs in at around 230 pounds, but Diop is mobile and moves well around the floor. His wide shoulders also make me think that he can get even stronger in the NBA. Most of all, what I like is that Diop has shown that he can track and compete for loose balls on the glass. Diop knows how to position himself and be the first one to misses.